I just want to welcome everyone who is watching live today and those of you watching the rebroadcast. My name is Dr. Amy Aldridge Sanford, and I'm the Associate Provost at TAMU-CC, and we're just really glad you're joining us today. Happy International Education Week. This is day 2. Our OEI Director, Derek Yu, gave a great explanation regarding the history of the IEW and its sponsorship yesterday. So I hope you'll watch the video from yesterday to hear it if you weren't present. We'll have that video up very soon with welcomes from Derek and me and Provost Phillips from day 1. And performances from our international students and friends of the university. You'll be able to find them on the Office of International Education website, hopefully later today. We're working on finalizing those. And we'll also add today's broadcast. We are recording it as well. We do have a couple of other events this week. Tomorrow is our Study Abroad Fair, and our wonderful Study Abroad coordinator, KB Vu, she will be in charge of that. And then Thursday is a panel that is being co-sponsored with the Center for Faculty Excellence, and it will feature all of our faculty, or I shouldn't say all, it will feature a few of our TAMU-CC faculty who have been Fulbright scholars. So for more information about either one of those events, you can visit the OEI website. And you do need to pre-register for the Study Abroad Fair. And if you want to be in person at Thursday's event, because there's an in-person option and a web option for Thursday's event. But if you want to be in person and get food, you will need to pre-register for that event as well. You'll need to RSVP. So we hope to see you at one or both of those events as we go on to the week. Today we have many distinguished guests. Yeah, you can see them in the windows. They give you a little wave now if they'd like to. I can talk them into it. All right, there we go. Some of them are still listening to me. And, I'm going to introduce them as they're invited to speak. Please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A as we go along, and we'll answer them as we have time. Megan, you want to go ahead and show them the next slide? There we go. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I will be moderating today's panel. So at the end of today's session, which will be around 1:15 or so, we will give away some door prizes, and we'll also announce yesterday's winners. You must be present to win the door prizes today, and you must also be a TAMU-CC student because they're partially bought with TAMU-CC student fees. So you do need to be a student to win those prizes. All righty. We are going to start with Megan Nolan today, who, like me, is another representative from the United States on the panel. And Megan is a career counselor in career services, but I also want to mention she's been quite a bit of technical support for us this week with International Education Week. We do have some people out of the OAE right now. We have somebody on maternity leave, on family leave right now. And so we've been a little shorthanded. So we really appreciate Megan's help. The Career Services Office where she works is a co-sponsor of today's event. Megan has both a BA and an MBA and is involved in her hometown community, which is Corpus Christi. So Megan, I know you've prepared a few slides today. You'll be the only speaker who will use slides today because we really wanted you to talk through companies that sponsor international students, because as you're going to hear as we go through today, being an international student looking for a job in the USA has its own unique set of challenges, right? And one of them is just finding a company that will hire you, right? So she's going to talk about that a little bit and give us some tips. Once she shares that information, we're then going to move into talking to the rest of our panelists. Many of them are former TAMU-CC international students. In fact, all of them are. And they work in U.S. businesses and or have gone to PhD programs in the U.S. So let's begin with Megan, who'll speak for about 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to talk with our panelists. And as Megan talks, like I said, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A and we'll get to those. So Megan, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk to us for a little bit.
Okay. So first of all, I sort of wanted to introduce everyone to some of the services that our office offers. And so we can offer resume reviews. So if you have never, prepared a resume or a cover letter and you need some assistance with that, if you are preparing for an interview and your interview skills just feel like maybe they could use some work, definitely can help with that as well. If you aren't really sure what career you would like to pursue after graduation, or even if you're in the right major, we can also help with that. And then job search strategies. And so helping you identify some of the um, resources that I'm going to talk to you about today, and then just other tips and strategies for job searching. We also offer a career closet. So you may notice that our panelists today are dressed professionally. And so, right, that professional dress is really important to being able to present yourself professionally when you go into a job interview. And so if you don't have access to professional clothing right now, maybe you left it at home or you don't have a suit, we do rent professional clothing that you can borrow, and you can borrow that for an interview or for a class presentation. With all of the restrictions, we do have a little bit of restrictions on the career closet this semester. Namely, you do need to schedule an appointment in order to check out clothing, and everything that you bring back to us is dry cleaned before it's checked out again. And then also we offer and sponsor career fairs and other events, so opportunities for you to really build your professional network. So what to expect from the job search specifically as an international student, and kind of some tips for that as well. So take advantage of the resources that are available to you, right? Visit the Career Services office to make sure that you're presenting yourself as a strong candidate. And then utilize the online databases that are available to you. We're going to talk through one of those here in just a second. Social media. So it's going to be really important that you prepare a LinkedIn profile and that, again, it's a professional representation of you as well. And then take advantage of those networking opportunities that you'll see throughout campus, right? Using your professional network to help advance your career. Start early, right? So your status might mean that it's going to take you a little bit longer to identify an opportunity that will be able and willing to sponsor you. And so don't wait until a month before graduation, and then start trying to identify opportunities. Start as early as you can, so that you can do the best you can to make sure you give yourself plenty of time. Be willing to move. So, right, be willing to consider some of those larger cities. And there's some examples there of companies that have their headquarters in larger cities. So those larger companies are typically more willing to sponsor, and more familiar with the process. And then also global companies. So, right, companies that have global headquarters are more willing and less overwhelmed by the process of sponsorship. And so it's really important that you understand the process so that you can educate your employer, but it's also important that you try as best you can to think outside the box and target some of those companies who will not, immediately hear, I'm going to need sponsorship and then slam the door on you. And so I mentioned earlier that I'm going to walk you through one of those online databases that we have made available to students. And there's actually some things that would be helpful for domestic students as well. So I'm going to talk through that really quickly. The first step will be going to the Career Services website. You'll click on this tab that says Students, and then you'll click on the Going Global logo. So a couple of things on the Going Global logo, on the Going Global site, the career guides. So if you're interested in relocating to one of those larger cities, or a different country completely, there's some really useful career guides that can help you get acclimated to the culture and expectations of those different areas. There's also a job search. So Going Global also hosts an international job board if you need that for any reason, and then also the international internships as well. But the thing that we're going to really focus on today is this H-1B database. So if you click there, you can enter any of the search criteria that you would like, and then you can just press search. This one I just did a broad search, but it will show you all of the companies that have sponsored visas in the past, the amount of wage that they're paying the person that they're sponsoring, where they're located, and what the position is that they're sponsoring for, which can be really helpful in terms of targeting your search, right? So if you know that they've sponsored in the past and they're already familiar with the process, it can sometimes be an easier conversation to have when you're not introducing something completely new. Again, it's really important that you understand your status and you understand the process, and that you're your own advocate. But also, right, knowing kind of where to target your search can be helpful as well. And so I know that I went through this presentation very quickly so that I could try to leave as much time as possible for our panelists so that you can soak up all of the amazing knowledge that they have. But really quickly, I wanted to go through the process for scheduling an appointment to meet with me in case you would like more additional information or need any more assistance with this process or with your resume or interview techniques, because those vary from culture to culture, and we want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. So you'll log into Handshake, and then you can select the Career Center tab up there at the top, or that box right underneath it. It'll take you to the same place. From there, you'll select Appointments, and then you'll use the big blue button that says Schedule a New Appointment. You can select the type of appointment you're scheduling, and then you'll be able to see the availability. If you're wanting to meet with me, I am, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the career counselor, typically for the College of Business. So even if that's not your college, if you'll select College of Business, you'll be able to see my schedule. But we do also have career counselors that represent each college. So if you are looking for specific knowledge about science and engineering, that'll be Mr. Jace Medina. It's really nice that you have somebody who has some field specific knowledge about your industry. And so sometimes you may want to meet with that person depending on what your needs are. The really nice thing is any of these times that you see available for you, we're available. So don't worry about, oh, I don't want to inconvenience them. No, we've set our schedule. So if you want to meet with us, select a time. From there, you'll be asked to answer a couple of questions. Make sure that you press the next page all the way to the bottom, because there are several pages of questions depending on the type of appointment that you want to schedule. And then the very last step is this green button at the very bottom that says Request. And once you click that, your appointment, it'll send me an email. Your appointment will be on my calendar. You'll get some additional information about joining your appointment. Right now, all appointments are virtual, and so you'll get the WebEx link and all of those things. But we also host virtual appointments even in regular semesters or more normal times. So if for some reason you're not able to come to campus, I can always meet with you virtually. And you do have access to our services even as an alumni. If you have lost access to your Handshake account, that's probably because you've lost access to your Islander email. And so you can either call our office or shoot me an email, and we can get that taken care of for you. And so here's my contact information. Are there any questions about any of the information?
Thanks, Megan. Will you go back a few slides to where you show kind of the listing of the companies that popped up when you did that kind of faux search? First of all, I just want to say to the audience, I know some of you aren't students at TAMU-CC, you're students at other universities, and I'm hopeful that at your university there are these kinds of services as well with your Career Services Center or your Office of International Education or its equivalent. Megan is the College of Business specific advisor, but she's also the specific advisor for all international students if you really want to talk about your special circumstances. She is very well versed in them and is there to help advocate for you and help you find the things that you need. So just to be clear, she's used Going Global here, which is a service the university pays for, so that you can do these searches and find international friendly companies who would be willing to sponsor you for your H-1B. It may mean you need to move. right, to a bigger city, which is something that Megan was really trying to press upon you, you know, that you may have to go to a bigger city. And we're going to talk to Dung here in a little bit. And that's exactly what he had to do. He'll tell you all about his search. You're going to be astonished, perhaps, at the amount of places he applied. And his is not an unusual experience. I just want to say that. Also, Derek, quickly, because I know I didn't ask you to be on this panel, but to speak. But I do. Derek is an immigration specialist, and Derek, can you just speak to quickly what helps a person get an H-1B? Just thinking about that, it's about being able to do a job that they don't have enough U.S. citizens to do. Can you talk about that real quickly, Derek? Would you be comfortable?
Okay. And as F1 student, I think the first things you will get OPT. OPT for most students only for 1 year. For STEM fields, you have two more years. And after OPT, if you want to continue to stay here, the best way you need to apply for the H-1B. When you apply for H-1B, the most important things, the job must match your degrees. That's a very important thing. If your job does not match your degree, that is not eligible for H-1B. And so therefore, when you look for the H-1B employer, the first things you need to see what the duties are. When we submit H-1B petition to CIS, the number one thing they try to see what your degree is, what your duties are. The second thing is the salary. At H-1B, the employer must pay you the certain salaries. Even 1 cent less, they will deny the H-1B. The company can pay you much more. They can pay you $1 million is fine, but they cannot pay you the federal required salary 1 cent less. That's the number two very important things. 7 or 10 years ago, the employer can pay you 5% less than the federal required salary. Now they abolished that policy already. They must pay you 100% and required salary. And so that is, I think, is therefore, before you apply for H-1B, you have to pass the Labor Department test, which means all the salary required by Labor Department. And I think is usually right now, all the H-1B employer, as Megan's slide show, they have a certain kind of company. Not every company they do that. And so some company, they like to hire H-1B, especially in STEM fields, some accounting fields, and they hire H-1B persons.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek. I don't want to take too much time away from our panelists. I just kind of wanted to really stress the important point about you really need to speak with, people who are fluent in immigration policy, right? And know what's going on when you go to pursue these jobs, and you need a bit of a team. You're fortunate in a university. If the university welcomes international students, you should have this team, right? So I hope that you do. If you're an Islander, you certainly do. Also, I just want to say to those of you on today who are domestic students or not international students, you may have me faculty, staff, a member of our community. I want to thank you for tuning in too, because I think it's really important that a lot of people understand the challenges of staying in the U.S. To work or to go to school. I think it's a little bit easier to go to school, but I'm glad that you're so interested in knowing this information and the empathy that it involves. Derek, someone's asking about CPT. Can you quickly discuss CPT?
Okay. The CPT is kind of internship. In other words, CPT called internship, which means in order for a student to eligible for CPT, had to be required by the degree. Certain degree said you had to have internship for suppose 100 hours or 20 hours, and that is use CPT to work anywhere, do your internship. And the second thing is, if in TAMU-CC, most degree do not require CPT, which means do not require internship. Therefore, you have another way to apply for CPT, so which means off-campus job. How to do that? If your program does not require internship, then you can take certain kind of class to get a credit. So as long as the class you take, you will receive credit, even 1 credit, 2 credit, or 3 credit. 3 is better. Therefore, and we can help you to get off-campus job. So that's very hard right now. At the present time, if your program does not require internship, and the CIS watches very closely right now. But whenever we approve CPT, you really want to know the reason why. And the most good reason we said, our student, although the program does not require internship, but if our student have some really working experience, they will help her or him for the career. Therefore, he will receive credit. So sometimes they okay for this, but at the present time, they is tough. We hope the CPT policy will change in the future, but we do not know that yet.
Derek, have we scheduled our next OPT CPT workshop?
Yes, we schedule every semester.
When's our next one? What's the date? Do you know?
Date we have not, because we just finished one in September. The next one will be spring. Usually in the February, around end of February.
Yeah, if between now and then you have OPT and CPT questions, just email Derek and he would certainly answer them for you or set up an appointment to talk with you about it. So I want to move on to Dung. Dung is one of Derek and I's former students, so we're really excited to have Dung with us today. He graduated from TAMU-CC not that long ago, actually, in 2019 with his Master's of Accountancy, and is now living in Dallas, a major metroplex, working for Keyless Co. Many of you may remember Dung from campus, where he was very involved, specifically with the Vietnamese Student Association, but he was also the international senator for the Student Government Association and passed some important legislation, actually, that has come to fruition regarding international students and health insurance. So I just want to welcome Dung. I'm always very glad to see him. We're really interested, Dung, in anything you've heard today you want to comment on, feel free. But we're really interested in your journey, post-graduation and moving to Dallas.
Hello from Dallas, Texas, and thank you for inviting me today. And I'm so happy about that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Yes. So I just want to share my journey about to get an H-1B job during my OPT time and then get a sponsorship for H-1B. So I applied for OPT in March 2019, and I start to look for a job since I think April 2019 to the end of August 2019 until I get a job in my career. So in 4 months, I think 5 months, I already applied for 700 companies in the US, and I get like 60% of the company to get me a phone interviews, and only 9 of them request me for in-person interview. So I can tell this is a painful, exhausted, and stressful process. And I don't know how can I do it. So sometimes it's based on your luck, but you have to get a good strategy for job search, because it's easy if you are American citizens, but if you put your status international student on the top of it, it's another story. So I have some recommendations for our students at the moment. So first, to apply for a job with OPT, you have to know the basic information about OPT, like you can apply for OPT before 90 days or after 60 days of your completion date of your degree. And you have to remember OPT processing times is usually take 2 to 4 months. So I applied in March and I don't get the OPT until at the end of July 2019. So it's about 4 months. And it depends on USCIS, and this time, because of this pandemic, it maybe take a longer process. So you have to prepare to get the timeline for your OPT when get approval. And when your OPT starts, you have only 90 days to find a job. If after 90 days you cannot find a job, you have to leave the US or you have to change to another status. So to find a job in US, first I recommend you have to prepare your resume or CV and cover letter as soon as possible. So, and you should have a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn is the biggest network for all the professionals all over the world. So if you have this account, you can expand your network, and it's one of the way you can get the job. Because a lot of companies post a lot of job or hiring posts on LinkedIn. So you also have to prepare that you're always willing to move for a job. This is your attitude. You have to have it if you're an international student. You are willing to move for a job. I love Corpus Christi, small city, easy to live, but to be honest, there are not many chances for international students in a small city. So I applied for, I think, 27 companies in Corpus Christi and no response back. Of course, 0 interview. So next, I want to talk about the job search strategy. So this one, you have to have a strategy because we are special. You're a little bit special because we are in different immigration status. So first, you have to, if you have a chance of opportunity, you should apply for some international organizations like World Bank, IMF, United Nations, or UNICEF. They are international organizations, so they are open for visa sponsorship, or you have a special visa to stay in the US. The second thing is my main focus today is apply for a corporate job in the US. So you can apply from small to big companies, but most of people think they only apply for big companies because they are easy and they know how to sponsor for a job with H-1B. But you have to think it's true, but it's not enough. The small company is able to sponsor you with H-1B visa too. And the advantage of small company is they are small company, so they don't have a lot of level to make a decision. So their process is very quick, and you can negotiate. When you interview, you can negotiate about the H-1B sponsorship with your CEO or president of the company. So you can have clear path at the beginning when you start the job. You will get a sponsorship with this job. For the bigger company, it may depend because they have a lot of level to make a decision. So, and you have to find a job in LinkedIn. That I suggest because LinkedIn is the biggest network for professional. And then you can find in another network like Indeed or some company websites. Some big companies, they have a special website for their hiring. So you should focus on the company website too. The third one, you have to make an Excel spreadsheet, keep track with all the job you applied, and you have to set up a reminder. Just after 3 days or 1 week you apply for the job, you have to remind them about the result of the process. When we go move forward with us or no, you have to remind them or just like heads up with them so you know your status of your applications. And you have to prepare for some basic questions for the phone interview, because most of them, they will have a phone interview first to see if you are a qualified candidate first. The most common question for the phone interview is like introduce about yourself, experience, hobbies, strengths or weaknesses. And most of them, you have to take advantage of your networking. So because you don't know, some people may help you to get a job. So you have to open your networking. And I have one website that is good for me when I search for a job. The website is h1bdata.info. In this website, they will, if you search for a company, they will show you how many sponsorship they sponsor in the previous year, what is the positions, what is the salary, and what is the locations. So based on the information, you will know will our position get sponsorship next year or not. So the website is h1bdata.info. It's good for you to see, because they will update it from USCIS. If you get approved, they will update on this website. So it's like a resource. You can find a company and they have a previous file job, sponsored job already. And so now there's some tips for apply for H1B job under OPT. So normally you have to go through screening questions such as like how many years of experience in this field do you have? Will you need a sponsorship for visa in the future? So my suggestion is do not ask about visa sponsorship if they do not mention. If they ask, you have to be honest. If not, just don't ask them on the phone interview or via email. Just try your best to get in-person interview, because in-person interview is the only chance you can introduce yourself and familiar with them. And at in-person interview, you can have a chance to negotiate with them because about the job sponsorship. So my question, don't ask about the visa sponsorship if they don't mention it. Just try to get in on-site interview first. So if in the summer, if you don't want to come back to your country, you can find a job under CPT here and try to get like internship, not too long, it's just 2 to 3 months, but it's going to become good in your resume because you already have experience with the job in the US. So if you have free time in summer, try your best to get an internship. Small, big companies is not a problem. It's just you have potential or you have know the working environment in the US. So, and the other thing you have to understand about H1B process. So it's not a time-consuming process. Actually, since this year, the process is only have 2 steps. First step is only take 5 minutes and $10 fee with USCIS to finish the enrollment. The second step is after you get selected for the lottery, you can just spend 1 to 3 days to prepare the paperwork, and the fee is depend if you have the lawyer or not. So it's around 3,000 to 4,000 for the whole process. And the last thing I want to say to you is do not give up. And because you do not give up if you not have tried enough, but you have to be realistic. So you have to have a backup plans. If you already try your best but you still cannot find a job within 90 days, what is your next step? You have to have a backup plans so you always active with your strategy. So the last thing I want to say, from my experience, you should participate in university events or society events because this is the way for you to expand your network. I mentioned the importance of network because you don't know, maybe a person you met in the event may change your life forever, or can give you a reference to another people who is hiring for this position. So in sum up, it's not a easy process, but it is stressful, painful, exhausted, but it's not impossible. It's possible for you to get a job. So sometimes in the process, you will feel you are a loser or you are unconfident, but keep in mind that you are finding a job in the US, not in your country. So be persistent, positive, and have fun with the process. So if you have any questions or need my help, I'm willing to help you at any time. Just email me and I can help you in some way. Thank you.
And Derek and I have contact information for Dung. So if you're hearing from him, he's offered to help. And if you're hearing from him and you're really kind of feeling connected and want to hear more, I email and text with Dung. I can promise you he responds pretty quickly. So he'd be happy to help. I want to say I really am impressed with the things you talked about and the advice you gave. And some of it's great advice for domestic students looking for domestic jobs. I think what I hear you saying though is there's just so much more of a sense of urgency when you're an international student, because there's just a clock ticking all the time, you know. So that Excel sheet really rang true for me, because you do have to check in every few days, and it may annoy some people, but for other people it may make them move a little bit faster, you know. So I think that's really important. I do have a question, Dung, and that's, who mentored you? Like, how did you know to do these things? I think we muted you, Dung. You have to unmute.
So first of all, I participate in some event from Office of International Education at TAMU-CC. So I have a general information about H1B or OPT or CPT. And then I have some friends who already passed this process. So they give me some experience. I noted that. And sometimes I can ask I can research or search on google.com in some group for H1B student only. So they have some advice for me. And when you read their post, you will take a note and you will know the process. And you have to do by yourself too, because not everyone has the same process. So you have to modify to fit to yourself and your position, and then you just do it. And one thing is, I have a lot of amazing professors in TAMU-CC. They don't help me like directly, but they can refer me to somebody else if they're like their friend work in industry or something. So they help me to open my network, and I can find a job. So like sometimes I ask for Dr. Amy Sanford to give me a recommendation letter to apply a job, and she's agreed. So it's good for you. It's good for me and good for anyone if you have support from your professor. My boss when I work at TAMU-CC, Dr. Eugene Blank from College of Business. He gave me a lot of like experience about the job and what the future is and what you do next. So it's kind of motivation for me and a support from Dr. Blank for me. So I really appreciate it.
That's fantastic. If you wouldn't mind putting in the chat any of the websites you mentioned. I remember you mentioned an H1B website that might be helpful to people. So thank you. We're going to move now to TeeJay. So if we want to move to his slide there. All right. This is Olumide Adeoye. I've always just called him TeeJay. TeeJay was actually my grad assistant. So He is an Islander Master's graduate. He received his MPA from us again recently, and he was the president of the International Student Organization here. And he got it started after it had been dormant for quite a while. So it meant recruiting new students, writing new governing documents, and he was the man to do it because he came to us with experience from Nigeria and policy. TeeJay, so both you and Dr. R, who we're going to hear from in a minute, you decided to pursue PhDs after finishing your master's degrees. You didn't go right out into the working world and the corporate world. And so we just want to hear from you why you made that decision, and if you have recommendations for other international students in the U.S. who want to go on to get a degree at another institution inside the U.S.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanford, for that introduction. First of all, let me thank the organizers of this event for the opportunity to speak at an event like this. I would want to welcome everyone with the usual Islander sign and say it's good to be back home. I've always looked forward to a day like this. Unfortunately, I would have wished this was an in-person event where I can possibly see and hug a couple of the faces here. But no thanks to COVID, we have to do this virtually, which is fine by me. But I'm very glad to be back once again at the prestigious Island University. All right, so to your question, Dr. Sanford, I think for domestic students and international students alike, the main question, post-graduation, either from undergraduate or postgraduate degree, is always that big question of what do I do next? Where do I go from here after graduation? And it's really a very tough question that you would have to contemplate and keep deciding and going back and forth on that decision. Do I go straight into the job market, or do I further pursue a higher degree, and so on and so forth? And for me, I actually chose the later, to pursue a higher degree. And I chose the later for several reasons. But because of our time, I'm going to just go over two of those reasons why I decided to pursue a PhD. First of all, the fact is, I am a very curious person, and I love to learn a whole lot. And if you look at an undergraduate degree and a master's degree, an undergraduate degrees, no doubt about that, undergraduate degree and graduate degree offers a great deal of knowledge. But the fact is, it doesn't necessarily make you an expert. So if you are really interested in your field of study, if you're really passionate about a subject area, then pursuing a PhD degree is that route that you should be going. So that way you'll become more immersed in that subject area. You become more of an expert in that subject area. Usually, I know the audience here would agree with me that during the undergraduate level, you're more of taking more of general courses level. And when you go to a master's degree, there's a bit of concentration that you're meant to kind of offer, but still that doesn't really give you that in-depth knowledge that you really want with regards to a specific area of study. And that is what PhD actually offers, because at a PhD level, you're going right deep down. You're digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And so that was one of those very reasons why I chose to go that route, because I'm passionate about my subject area. I really want to learn more about it. That way, I can become an expert in that area. And secondly, and which of course to me, it's more of the juicy part of my reason, is that I believe a PhD offers me that opportunity to actually climb the ladder much faster than I would if I only have a master's degree or say an undergraduate degree. In fact, the job market currently is already saturated with lots of degree out there. So I believe a PhD offers me that competitive advantage to actually climb my career ladder or even my personal life much faster than I would if I just have a master's degree or an undergraduate degree. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying here that a PhD degree takes you right from the bottom and place you at the top. That's not the insinuation. What I'm saying is just that it offers that competitive advantage for you to actually climb your career path much faster than you would if you just stop at an undergraduate level or degree level. Uh, well, as regards to my advice for students who would love to tow the same route like I did, I want to advise that you start very, very much early. And when I mean starting early, you don't even, in the US, you don't even have to have completed your master's degree or your undergraduate degree. I began my application process 3, 4 months before the completion of my master's degree. And I ended up getting admitted into 5 different universities here in the US. So it's one important thing I would want you to look at. And again, I want applicants to look at a PhD program as more of applying for a job. Actually, it's not different from applying for a job because most schools actually get to pay you to study, to pursue your PhD degree. So it's more like a job application, so to say. And that leads me to my very next point of you looking at it from a broader perspective. Applying for PhD, you must be able to market yourself to the admission committee. You must be able to propel and appear like you really have what it takes to actually succeed in that program. And an addendum to that is the fact that don't just look at a PhD application from the academic perspective of just your GPA and maybe your standardized score. But I'm glad Dung, the speaker right before me, kind of touched on these a little bit. Uh, so don't look at PhD application from the perspective of your GPA or your standardized score. It's more of a portfolio-based application where you are kind of examined holistically with regards to what contributions have you been able to make in the past outside of your academic, what involvement have you been able to make in terms of academic and community involvement. And I must confess, all those things kind of worked for me exponentially during my undergraduate, during my application progress. I remember, my first week at my current university here at Penn State University in Harrisburg. Some of the admission committee members kind of walked up to me and say, "Oh, are you Olumide?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm Olumide." Wow, I like your statement of purpose because when I read that, I was able to see how you were able to match your academic credentials with real life experience. And what were those real life experience? These were things I gathered much more when I was at TAMU-CC, Texas A&M University. I was the president of the International Student Association. On top of that, I also served as a senator in the Student Government Association, SGA. On top of that, I also served as the only student member in the Student Grade Appeal Committee for my department, and tons of other non-curricular activities that I participated in while serving in TAMU-CC. So my advice is don't look at these as just a mere well, I have a 4.0 and that should guarantee me an admission into any university. Unfortunately, it's not that. It's more of a portfolio-based application review process. And the portfolio includes your GPA, your standardized score, your statement of purpose, your resume, your extracurricular activities, and reference letter, and so much and so forth. And with regards to the reference, that leads me to the very last point. Honestly, if you want to pursue a PhD, I think this is the right time for you to kind of connect individually with your faculty members, have a personal relationship with your faculty members, have some of them as your mentors, because these are guys who ordinarily have went through the same process, and naturally they are able to kind of offer you that piece of advice, that opportunity that you need to actually move forward. And if you're the type that is really very passionate about this process, like I was during my undergraduate days, and I think then that makes you want to have a manager, who would manage you, who would kind of, go beyond the four walls of your classroom and offer you, real life perspective with regards to this. And fortunately for me, I had one of such manager who kind of managed the whole process for me from start to finish without pay. I wish I had paid her. Looking back at some of the things she did for me back then. And if you are curious about who this person was in my life back then, I think you might want to research the name of the moderator for today's event. That probably will give you an idea as to who a manager was. So you need to start early, like I said. You need to look at it from the perspective of not just being you applying for a school, but more of a job application, like you would apply for a job. You must be able to market yourself. That's the word, market yourself to the admission committee, and don't look at it from the academic perspective only. Extracurricular matters much more, or even or probably as more as your academic qualification, and then have a mentor, have a manager who would guide you through the process. With that, I would want to just keep it at that, and hopefully you guys have further questions, and I can delegate on those. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TeeJay. I'll say that, of course, TeeJay and I are pretty close. He was my graduate assistant for 2 years, and I, over the years, have had students come in and out of my life where I could identify that, yes, they probably should get a PhD. That's probably the path they should pursue, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And I've helped other students get into programs and things. And I always set these really realistic expectations for people who are trying to get into PhD programs, because it's so hard. And some people don't even get in their first try. And so I did that with TeeJay. I prepare him, I have these conversations about, people can be ethnocentric against your name and your nationality. And, this may not work out immediately, and all these sorts of things. And I think TeeJay got into like every program he applied for, and that's really unusual. And what he didn't say, and perhaps I shouldn't say, but I'm going to, is that he was well funded going into Penn State. They offered him a nice financial package to go to Penn State. And I think it really just speaks to all the advice that both he and Dung have given you about how important it is to make connections while you're at your institution, your university, and to get involved. And I think it's often scarier for international students to take those steps because many of you are not speaking a first language. The official language of Nigeria is English. So TeeJay, did grow up speaking a lot of English, but I think it's more difficult. And I just think it's very admirable when we see you all do so well. So I think that's great. TeeJay, I have a technical question for you, and that is your visa, your student visa, your F1. Was it just pretty easy to transfer it over to Penn State? It's not a big time process, right?
Well, I mean, I would say it wasn't. I'll kind of sit on the fence with regards to that question. It was and it wasn't. And what kind of helped me was that the fact that I started pretty much early, like I said, like I mentioned earlier in the course of my presentation, I started applying for this PhD program like 2 semesters to the end of my master's program. And so usually for F1, the maximum time you're giving for any F1 visa is a 2-year period, right? And so my master's at Texas A&M was kind of a 2-year master's period. And towards the very tail end of that master's program at Texas A&M, I traveled to a border town in Mexico called what's the name of this town again?
Did you go to Progresso?
I went to, oh my God.
I don't remember. I just remember you didn't tell me till after you'd done it.
Yeah, I was scared that I probably wouldn't be allowed back in if I just go. But again, my visa was expiring, and I don't want to go out of status while I'm in the US. And so I decided to kind of renew my visa and went to a border city. Well, actually, it's Laredo, Mexico. So I went with a friend to Laredo, Mexico, like 1 semester towards the end of my master's degree pursuit in Texas A&M. Went to Laredo, presented my previous visa, and presented my last registration at Texas A&M, the kind of a printout for my registration from Texas A&M, presented it to them. And the interviewer was kind of just formal, generous with me. And at the end of the day, she kind of renewed that initial 2 years visa and added another 2 years to my visa, which kind of expired in 2020. And after renewing that visa, I also went through the process of transferring my service record, because those are 2 different things. You have a visa which takes you to a particular school in US, and you have to stick to that very school unless you're actually transferring to a different school. So I, took that very initial process of maintaining my currency status in Texas A&M, since I still have 1 semester left. Updated that and got a 2-year additional visa that takes me until 2020 before expiration. And then when I got the admission to this program at Penn State Harrisburg, I went to the Office of International Education again. Mr. Derek Yo is here and can very much attest to that. And I told them, look, I'll be leaving you guys in the next couple of months, and I would want my service record transferred from this university to my next university in Penn State. And within 2 or 3 days, all the bureaucratic process was worked out, and my service record was transferred. But I still have Texas A&M University on my visa as the institution that I'm attending. But then with service, which is the main immigration authority, my record reads Penn State University, and which gives me an opportunity to pursue my PhD from 2018 up until 2026.
Great. And you went to Nuevo Laredo. That's
Nuevo Laredo.
Yeah. And so this really just gets back to, keep talking with your immigration, officials, and make sure you're following, all the rules to keep yourself eligible, right? So we're going to move on now. Thank you, TeeJay, to Wannigar Ratanavivan. Been practicing that, Wannigar, for you. She received 3 graduate degrees from TAMU-CC and is a national certified counselor and a clinical assistant professor here on the island. So she took a path similar to TeeJay's, but she's a little further along in her career at this point. So I really want to talk with you about, as a counselor, if you have advice for international students as they go through the job process or as they choose to pursue a PhD, and they're managing all this expectations and stress. And I mean, it's like a domestic student experience times 4. I mean, it's intense. And so we'd like to hear from you as a counseling expert and as a person who's been through this.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Sanford. So as a counselor, my advice, and I do agree with what Dung and TeeJay had shared about their experiences. And I would say that having the organizational and time management skills are very, very important, especially when once you're in the program, that's the preparation process, when you need to start thinking about what is the timeline, how long I'm going to be in the program, and when I'm going to graduate. So, and usually when I work with students, for the master's students, I talk to them and let them know that, hey, this is your last year and you have about 2 semesters or 1 semester left and you are in your internship. Maybe that is the time when you need to start do the research about the job market. And of course, keep yourself updated with the immigration laws, because that can be changed all the time. And for the doctoral students, I recommend them that once you are started doing your dissertation, and that is the time when you need to build the application packet, because this is a highly competitive, and a lot of times the position is opening for each university is available like 1 position, so you need to plan ahead of time and think about when I need to just, complete my packet and send it out and get the interview, because the interview process will be long. You're going to have like a screening interview, and then you're going to have like on-campus interview and things like that. So kind of like planning that ahead of time and take advantage of the service that the university provide to you. When I was a student, I did consult a lot with the Office of International Education about the OPT, how much time I have left, or when do I need to start applying for OPT, and after I have OPT, then how long I have, to apply for the job. So, and of course, career services. This is another thing that I want you all to take advantage of that as a student, because it really help them to maybe get information about current job market, and also help with build your curriculum vitae, your CV, or have the mock interview. So that is the advice from me, that with the time management and organizational skills. And I want to let you all know, in terms of managing expectations, as you heard from Dung, that rejection is a normal process when you apply for a job. So, and it's okay, if you're going to feel down, you're going to get disappointed. It's part of the process, but don't think that you're a failure and you're not going to do that anymore and you give up. And I would say that, hey, take that as a learning experience, because it's the opportunity for you to learn about your strengths, like what you did well, and of course the areas of improvement, what you think you can do better for the next job application. So and of course, like Dr. Sanford mentioned about, is the clock is ticking, right, with the job search process for international students. So, and that comes with a lot of stress. And it is funny because I spoke with one of the former international student. She got a doctoral degree and in a job search process. And then she was like, I'm so exhausted about this process. I spent so much time on just looking for a job. And I said, okay, all right, we are a counselor educator, so don't forget to practice self-care. All right, so that's a really important thing. And self-care can be something that very easy, like you get, engaging in any leisure activities that you enjoy, taking a walk, watching movies, playing with your pets, do meditation, exercise, so anything like that. It's good that you need to be proactive with your job search process. And at the same time, be patient with this as well. And don't forget to take care of yourself and seek the support as you need it. Whether it's going to be from your friends, your family members, your significant others, can be anyone. When I was a doctoral student and when I researched the job just like others, so I usually would get together with my friends. We're gonna have happy hours, lunchtime, dinner, just chit chat and talk about, hey, how our lives are, and things like that, and that helped a lot. So that's the advice from the counselor perspective.
I appreciate that. And that advice around self-care is important all the time, but really important right now with all the stresses with COVID that are happening. And I find that our international students, a couple of things happen with them besides that time ticking. A lot of them are overachievers. You know, they were fantastic students in their own countries. And then they come over here and they're the GPAs of our international students every semester, the cumulative is over 3.5. They have higher graduation rates than any other student population. I mean, these are really overachieving students. And I think they put a lot of pressure on themselves. And so I'm glad to hear you give them permission to relax, you know, and to take time for themselves, you know. I have a specific question, and this is another challenge I see a lot with our international students. A lot of them have very supportive families. I mean, no doubt about it. Parents who have sacrificed, aunties and uncles who have sacrificed and just want them to live the dream. You know, I see that all the time. But then I also see my students, our international islanders, feel a lot of pressure associated with that because they don't want to let their families down. Sometimes they're not even honest with their families about struggles they're having because they don't want to worry them. I hear that all the time. I don't want to worry my mom. I hear that so often. What advice would you give our international students on that, on communicating with their families in their home countries and managing that communication and relationship?
Well, I mean, I do agree, of course, you know, like as an international student, you don't want your family members, you know, to know that you struggle. You just want to give them a good news only. And of course, you know, it's like there's a conflict, and of course you need a support, and at the same time you don't want them to be worried about. So, and I would say that sometimes be transparent, I would say. And that's okay, you know, to just kind of update with them. Hey, this is the process that I'm in right now, and I'm going to do this, you know. So just tell them, you know, with the information, the fact. And of course, like I heard what Dung mentioned about, this is like, of course, you talk to them about your plans. This is my plan A, dad, mom, and this is my plan B, and this is my plan C. This is what I'm doing, you know, for my job search process when I'm in the US. So telling them the information and be transparent with them. And if you don't want them to be worried about, you don't have to, of course, crying so hard or put yourself down, you know, but let them know how you're doing. And, you know, of course, another thing that I want to tell the international student is they can also find the support here in the US as well. I know that dealing with the family can be another issue, and if you think you cannot communicate with them about those feelings, you can process that with, you know, the people that are here. We have the staff, right, at the UCC, the University Counseling Center. You have, maybe some of you are really close to the faculty, the mentor, you know, that can guide you through the process. So I would say, like, balance that, and at least, you know, let them know where you are, but you don't have to really, like, you know, chat everything about, you know, or the sad feeling, or, you know, any thought that I'm going to give up and things like that.
That's great advice. I guess that's why you have the counseling degrees. It's very good advice. Just to be honest and to communicate openly. And I know it's hard to give advice to international students because we have students from 55 countries, right? And the advice may be different if you know culturally, you know exactly where they're coming from. But and I'm so glad you suggested counseling services because I know it may not be accepted inside your own country, but in the U.S., it's really a form of self-care, you know, to talk with someone, you know, who can offer you advice. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'm so glad you're on our campus. And as I said yesterday in my welcome to the week, and I've told you this before, I just think our faculty and staff who come from different countries of origin in the U.S., I just think you all are just really special to our campus community for all our students, but I just see the way our international students look at you. I see how empowered they are, you know, by seeing people who have had similar experiences. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Dr. Sanford. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're going to move on to Burak. You know, he would probably say we've saved the best for last. Burak is one of those rare unicorns who gets to stay in Corpus Christi and work. He has made a career here in this community, is very active in the Corpus Christi greater community. And he is a business clinical analyst at Driscoll's Children's Hospital. But he also used to work here at the university as an instructor, and he got his MS in computer science here. So I really wanted him to talk about today his specific career, because I think this is a career perhaps a lot of international students could fill a void, you know, in the U.S. I think there are a lot of job opportunities. And just to talk about what a business analyst does, a business clinical analyst does, what kind of skills you need for that job. And then feel free to add any thoughts about what you've heard today as well, Burak.
Thank you, Dr. Sanford. Thank you, everyone. I'm guessing you can hear me, right? You're good? Perfect. Thank you for having me. First of all, thank you all the friends and everyone attending today and listening to us. We kind of all have our own stories and kind of similar experiences. It doesn't matter where we are heading to, but we kind of go through the process. Let me start with the business analyst question. It's a very confusing definition, actually, like what Dung mentioned. This morning, I got a LinkedIn email, and for that email, I had positions for business analyst, business system analyst, data technologist, analytics technologist, data engineer, business intelligence developer, data technology project manager, data visualization specialist. So these are all under the era of business analyst definition. So that's a pretty broad area. So that's why I totally agree with what Derek mentioned about explanation of job responsibilities. And if you dive into those job responsibilities, you will find a lot of different information that might be interesting for you. In my team, we have anyone from education level of high school graduate to PhD. We have backgrounds of computer science, management information systems, health sciences, nursing, epidemiology, biomedical sciences, business administration, accounting, economics, and more. I even have one friend, he did biochemistry and molecular biology, who is actually in our team to do our studies. So what we try to do, actually, try to understand the business, find insight, do reporting, dashboarding. So I'm going to go for 3 skills that's pretty important for a business analyst. But I want to start with the technical skills. It's dashboarding, reporting, SQL development, report development. We use many different technologies like ClickSense, Tableau, Microsoft Power BI, Excel dashboards, SSRS, Crystal reports, like any of those technologies that's available in our environment. And maybe you guys heard it before. So I can offer some of our international friends about not only think about your degree and what you can do at the university, like many of us do, but also, you know, consider certifications, consider for participating open source projects where you can build your resume and then add those into your deal. The second skill that I'm going to mention is for business analyst is the problem solving skill, and I guess it's important for many different environments. But I can easily say for a business analyst, you know, we don't do the easy job. Easy job is for, you know, computers. We program them. My background is computer science, but we mostly do the messy parts of the job. So try to find those problems, you know, do the data integrity. We have different systems that they are not matching fields. Try to figure those out and then create insights out of that. So, for example, decide if you want to put a pulmo clinic to Laredo or not. So that's kind of the fun part of the job. So problem-solving skills come very handy on this one. And the last one is most probably, again, for many, the personal and soft skills that you can develop. So there are two departments in my organization, which we have the Driscoll Children's Hospital and also Driscoll Health System. Driscoll Health Plan is the part of the Driscoll Health System. It's IT and my department, which is planning and decision support. I also worked as a project manager for the university for planning and institutional research, which is almost the same thing for the university, but we are the only ones who needs to understand everything in an organization, every single workflow, every single department. So that comes with a very heavy load of understanding what's going on in the organization and communicate with our subject matter experts and understand their duties, understand their workflow, understand their responsibilities, and try to create results out of it. And it's not only just the folks on the field, but also our directors, our C-level people that we worked with while I was at the Planning and Institutional Research. Dr. Sanford and we did a lot of good studies. So it's not only just understanding the students or the patients in the hospital, but also trying to communicate it with the high-level personnel and explain them what's going on and understand what they need. This is for the business analyst part. As being an international student, I just want to mention one thing. It's kind of a meme, but you know what they say, I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as fast as I could. So that was the same story for myself. So that's why I guess we put a lot of stress on ourselves, like we want to do better, we need to work harder, we need to create our network. Our uncles, aunts, moms, dads they're not around in here. We most of the time don't have friends. So we try to create this whole new world for us, and it involves a lot of work that we need to do. So we have to differentiate ourselves from our American friends. And that's what I used to say as a faculty. It doesn't matter actually if you're international or not, but you have to differentiate yourself from the person who's sitting right next to you. So if you just think about school and what you can learn at the university, then that's not going to be enough for you. That's going to be very challenging. So I totally agree with TeeJay, adding your information, adding your extracurricular activities to your resume and working all of those. And I want to mention one more thing, which I'm big at. Those are the volunteering opportunities. For an internship or any type of a work, a paid work, as Derek mentioned, you need OPT or CPT, depends on which one you can utilize. But volunteering, it's donating your time. It's as long as it is for a humanitarian work or charitable work, you'll be just fine. So go look for those kind of opportunities because it will build a lot of network for you. You'll learn about the businesses. And some people see it as failing, but I see it like experiencing them. So sometimes we forget about finding a job, and that becomes our goal, our focus. But I believe it is more important to find what you love to do. And I'm one of those people that if I don't try, I'm not pretty sure if I'm gonna like it or not. That's one of the reasons why I started my MBA, I quit. I started my PhD, I quit. I did a lot of different things, worked as a faculty, worked as a project manager, worked in different organizations, worked for for-profit organizations, for non-profit organizations, and then I try to find my path. But I try it and I find it with trying. So volunteering is a great opportunity to do those kind of stuff. It doesn't require to be a non-international or an international student or a friend. You can just go find what you love. And it doesn't matter, like, yes, I'm one of those unicorns that get stayed in Corpus Christi, and I love my community. We do a lot of stuff in here. But it also, like many of the nonprofit organizations, they're connected. You never know, like what Dung mentioned, like who you're gonna meet during a volunteering event, how you're gonna communicate with them, and how it's gonna change your life. I'm a volunteer for so many different organizations in our community, which have different locations in all around the world, not only just in Corpus Christi or in the United States. So I totally recommend that for many of us to go out there, do those, and that they most of the time also help you, like what we mentioned about self-care, because you will be in a different environment, working with different people, learning skills, creating your network. That's one of the things that it's not being talked a lot. So I just want you guys to look into volunteering opportunities to build up yourself and your resume. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Burak left the campus a couple of years ago to go to work, at Driscoll. But one of the cool things is that our international students, even those who are pretty new to campus, will know him. They'll somehow he's networked into the university well enough that he still meets our students, and they know him in the community, and he still helps them. And that's a really cool network to have for our students. So appreciate that. And one of the reasons why I wanted Burak to talk about his job specifically today, and I'm glad he went through all the requirements for that job, is that this is a really up and coming field in the United States. And we are looking at adding graduate degrees in data science on our campus. And so I've really been inside the jobs data, the Department of Labor data and the Texas Workforce Commission. And wow, there are more jobs than there are people to take them. So when you think about sponsorship, you want to think about these kinds of jobs where they need people, because when they need people in the U.S. for these jobs, they're probably going to be more likely to sponsor people who need H-1Bs. So you want to think about that as you're moving forward. Well, we are out of time. We do need to, though, give away some door prizes. I'm sure our audience that has continued to stick around would like for us to do that. We want to give away some door prizes, so I'll turn this over to OIE. But I just want to thank everyone who attended today. I want to thank our panelists. I learned so much from you all today, and I'm just so appreciative. Even those of you I know pretty well, I learned some things listening to you today. So just thank you so much, and for all that you continue to do for our campus. And for those of you still on campus, of course, thank you for your support of our international students and internationalizing of our campus. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa and Ali.
I just want to make sure, can I stop the recording?
Yeah.